One of the most important things for nurses to learn how to use, whether it's just in your business or whether it's just in everyday professional life, is automations. And you've probably been hearing a ton about this. And I wanted today to really break down what is an automation? How do you actually go about building automations? And how are they actually going to improve whatever it is that you're doing, whether again, in your professional life or your business life? Now, in the event that this is our first time meeting, my name's Timmy. I'm a nurse consultant that also owns a AI consultancy agency. And what I've seen more than anything else is that automations really are the future. And as cliche as that sounds, you've been hearing so much about AI, but I really do mean this when I say that automations are the future. And the reason I can confidently say that is what I've been able to streamline in my business, it really is nothing short of amazing. And I've thoroughly enjoyed being able to actually walk through that process of figuring out exactly what it is that I can do with automations. What I want to do today is I want to show you at a very high level what is possible once you learn how to leverage these tools and why it is that people are going crazy for automations. Now, what I am going to show you does have the potential to be life changing if you take the time to learn how to leverage it effectively. And I've also seen that people who are curious about wanting to learn, if they take that time to really study what is available and how it is that it can actually make a difference for you, it is something that will transform your business, especially if you are wanting to eventually venture into a position where you have the ability to step away from your job. So, without further ado, I want to introduce to you this website that I have recently fallen in love with called make.com. And for anyone who's not familiar with make.com, really what it is an automation platform that just allows you to be able to build connections between different services, different apps, and to have these processes happen in an automated fashion. Of course, that's the whole purpose. And another platform that I'm going to introduce to you a little bit later is N8N. And N8N, it's like the letter N and then the number eight and then the letter N, is an automation platform that takes it to a little bit of a different level. It allows you to build agents, which I'm just going to give you a very, very brief overview of today. I ain't trying to do too much because more than anything else, what I want to make clear is that there's like a process for how you're going to go about actually developing these skills and figuring out exactly how you're going to integrate it into your business. N8N is an automation platform, but it also actually excels at helping you build agents, which is what we're going to be diving into next week. So we ain't going to do anything with that today. You got to go step by step to make sure we don't overwhelm folks. But we'll start off today introducing make.com and some of the automations that I've built. And then you can kind of get an idea for some of the things that you might want to be leveraging in your own business or inside of your career as a whole. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. And then we'll go ahead and dive right in. Now, if you haven't actually heard of make.com, I wouldn't be surprised because it is a tool that, while it's very popular in my world, it allows you to be able to do a lot of cool things. And if you aren't really in the entrepreneurial space, maybe it's not something that you've really looked to dive into. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen first, and then we can chat a little bit more about what that looks like. All right. So what you're looking at here is an automation that's been built in make.com. And what this automation does is it takes my Zoom recordings that I send to the cloud. So I record them on the cloud specifically to be able to make use of this automation. And then it breaks it down, and there's a whole lot of information that comes along with that automation, which means that you want to make sure that you're only getting the video because that's the only thing I care about, and then it downloads that video and actually uploads it to YouTube to a specific playlist and then sends me a notification to my phone when that process is complete. Now, I want to give a shout out to Kevin Savugo, who is my initial point of contact for developing the skill set. And this is an adaptation of an automation that he shared with me. Now, the reason why I really like this particular automation is it gives me the ability to do two things. Number one, it makes it so I don't have to worry too much about the limited storage on my Zoom account. For anybody who doesn't know, Zoom only gives you a 5 gigabytes of storage. When you have, let's say, HD video, 4K, like the camera that I use, that gets eaten up very quickly after 2 or 3 maybe recordings, especially if they're 45 minutes to an hour in length. The advantage of having this on YouTube is that I now have the ability to set a policy on my Zoom account where it'll actually delete recordings after I think I set it to 3 days. And no, maybe less than that. But it doesn't matter because it lives on YouTube. And of course, I'm uploading it to an unlisted playlist. I'm not going to upload calls that I have with my team or with people on YouTube in a way so that everybody else is able to find. So I just selected a specific playlist, and that allowed me to be able to actually take advantage of YouTube's free storage. The other thing that I am a huge fan of, which again, Kevin, shout out to you for putting me onto this. The reason I like this a lot is that YouTube, when you actually upload a video, it gives you the ability to get access to a transcript. And that transcript is actually going to allow you to do a lot of cool things. I had never thought of this before, and I'm somebody who used to just like take like a lot of notes and stuff when during my meetings. And yeah, it's nice to be able to do that, to go back and review it. And there's a lot of value in that. But the one thing that I didn't like about taking notes manually is that it actually takes you away from the interaction that you're having with the person. And more than anything else, it allows you, when you have access to the transcript, to take that transcript. Yeah, you can study it the old school way, but no, no, no. We in the 21st century, we got access to AI and Chat GPT. So what we're actually doing now is taking those transcripts, putting them in, and actually having AI break it down for us. So you obviously will add a prompt to say, okay, this is the transcript that I had with my prospect for this particular offer. I want you to break down what it was that they said that was the most important thing to them. What was the biggest pain point? Just give me a summary of what the call was and what the next steps are or any follow-up actions. The reason I love that, the reason I love that so much is not that Chat GPT or whatever other system I'm using is going to dictate how I'm going to go about doing things. It just allows me to save time and just be a lot more efficient with what it is that I'm doing, which is dope. And of course, then it gives me the ability to actually understand when that process is done. So I can then move it because you can only select one playlist where it'll go. And I didn't want to, I could obviously have made several different automations that had different filters that based on the name of the meeting, I could have filtered it that way, that it'll go off into different branches. But I wanted to keep it simple. So it just goes and sends it to one particular playlist. But when I get this notification to my phone that it says, oh, yeah, it's done, I just go and move it to the appropriate playlist. So instead of manually doing all these steps, the only thing I have to do is go into the YouTube app on my phone, go to the Your Videos, and then just go to the actual video and just change the playlist where it's saved. Simple. Now, this is just one example of automations that I have built that make a tremendous difference. There are several others that we'll probably get to in time, but I wanted to start with something like this because this is something that everyone can benefit from. Most people use Zoom. Most people use it for calls, whether it's just meeting with people, whether it's meeting with clients. Obviously, if you are using Zoom for your job, there's different considerations for HIPAA and privacy, but I'm just giving you an idea of what is possible. I'm not here debating whether or not you should be using it for patient care or not. Again, that's between you and your organization. But the nice thing about automations in general is that when you understand what's possible, that's when the world just opens up. The world is your oyster. Why don't we go ahead and actually just break down what is actually going on here? So let's give you an example. We're actually going to go to a previous run of this. And here, when we zoom in a little bit, at every step, it's going to tell us what it is that's happening. So here, it is showing me that, so the payload, what is a payload? So payload is really just the information that comes through. Make.com uses a programming language called JSON. And no, I promise that when I sent out this information that you would be able to do this with no coding. So no, you don't need to code to be able to do this. It does help, especially if you're wanting to do things that are a little bit more custom. But basically, this array of information, it has a whole bunch of different pieces here. And so when we go in, we have several different files. Because when anybody who's ever recorded a Zoom file on their computer, or a Zoom meeting on your computer, you know you get the audio, you get the video, you get the TXT file, which is the chat, you get a transcript. I specifically only want the video file that also has the audio attached to it. So what it does is this particular module, which we'll get to in a second, this particular module watches for Zoom recording, as it says. And then it takes that and it passes it through an iterator. I'm not going to get it all technical on you guys today. What does an iterator do? All you need to know is that the iterator just takes information as it shows. Here, it takes an array and breaks it down into individual pieces. You can see exactly what it does based on the image. So we have all this info that comes through over here. And really what it's just going to do is it's going to break it down to its individual elements. So as we can see here, we have one bundle that is for the M4A file. So an M4A file is a type of audio file. MP4 is a type of video file, which is what we want. TXT file is a text file, so has text in it. And then up here we have, where is it? The file extension JSON. So JSON, that was the language that I had mentioned earlier, and we don't want that either. We just want the video file. And so that's what this guy here does, is it assesses what is the type of file that is coming through. So the filter setup is it's looking for a file type. And so if the file type is not MP4, which is the video file, it's not letting you through. So there was 4 types of files that try to come through. This first one was not an M4A, or it was an M4A, which was the audio file. We ain't want that. So that's why it got rejected. Second one here was the timeline file. So that's just like the timeline of the call. To be honest, I haven't paid too much attention to that because I never use it. The third one was the MP4 file. So because file type equal MP4, that's why I was able to go through. And the last one was the chat, which is the TXT file. So then we go along and see what happens next. Then it goes and it downloads the Zoom file. So when we go into this module in a little bit here, you'll see that it has all these different settings that we can go in and we can put. And so here we are going to grab the download link and we are going to download that file because we need to download it in order to be able to actually then upload it. This is where I say, even though this is a no-code platform, having some understanding of how JSON functions is important. The beauty thing is that you actually can get ChatGPT or whatever other coding app to do this for you. You don't actually have to worry about that. And we just saw a question here. Actually, that was a little while ago. Let me pop that over here. Having tech issues at the beginning. What tool and what screen am I screen sharing right now? This is make.com. So right here, you can probably see it a little bit. Make.com. And so make.com is a no-code automation platform that allows people who don't actually know how to write code to automate a lot of different things. And when I say a lot, I am not exaggerating. So yes, there's a tool called make.com. Glad you were able to join despite the tech issues. Alrighty. So then once it has downloaded that Zoom recording, then it's going to upload it. So here's the URL where Zoom has uploaded my cloud recording to. And then it is going to upload that file to YouTube. So we have the data, which is the actual recording. We have the title, we have the file name, and then we have a category, and then all these other things that you can add on here in terms of the settings. Anybody who's ever uploaded a YouTube video, you know that these are the things that you would be entering in. And then you have the ability to add that video to a specific playlist. So it's going to ask you, what are the mappings? And we're going to talk about mappings in a moment. And then when we finish off here, then it gives us the ability to then send a push notification, which honestly, this is one of my favorite features in make.com. Because for me, I'm the type of person who I like just simplicity when it comes to processes. And if I have, for example, suppressed notifications from certain applications, I can still have these notifications that are tied to business processes that are important to me come through. One thing that I do want to mention with make.com is that you do have to have just a basic understanding of how information is passed through the internet. Make.com leverages JSON, and JSON is a language that is used to pass information over the internet using what we call the HTML protocol. HTML, you don't have to worry about that, but that is the programming language that we use to, for example, build websites, especially back in the day. And so this information is going to pass through the internet to be able to go through all these different phases to then end up in a push notification on my phone. The reason that this is a no-code platform is that we can actually leverage these mappings. And I wanted to show you over here what that looks like. And you'll see this in a moment. When you open up the YouTube module, it has specific fields that it's asking for information for. Some are optional, some are mandatory. And then you will go in and fill in that information. But the nice thing is that you have the ability to take the information from your previous module and map it to the next module. So what we did here is we had, and actually I'll show you here. When we had our output from our previous module here, it gave me a file name, which is the name of the file, which I use my personal Zoom meeting room. So anyone who uses Zoom, you know that that's going to be the name of your file, the date, the time, and then the name of the meeting. And then we have some other information. So what we did is we took the file name from the previous module and mapped it here. We took the download, which was, or the recording, which is, this is how that information appears when it gets processed. So this is the recording itself, the data. End of the sample data, it says this is originally this many bytes long. So all you need to know is this is the actual recording file, just split up into binary, which I'm getting pretty technical now. Don't worry about all that. But we have said, okay, where is the data that we're uploading into that recording? What's going to be the name of the file? And it's going to be file name, and the name of the title of the video is going to be the file name. And then the name of the file is going to be the file name. Simple. And then I've set some other pieces here, which I'll show you in a sec. And then we upload it to a specific playlist. When you have a playlist on YouTube, you will have a, excuse me, a playlist ID. And that playlist ID is pretty simple to find, and I'll show you how to do that. And then I was able to say, hey, and this is what the notification looks like. It says file name. So it would say 26th of March at 18:30, Timmy's personal meeting room. And then we add a space. We'll talk about that in a sec. Now on YouTube. So I just get that push notification to my phone and say, okay, great, it's done. Now I can go move it to the right playlist. All righty. So that's a high level overview, which is quite technical. And I hope you have been tuning in over the last couple of weeks, because we started off by just talking about ChatGPT and talking about prompt engineering and what that actually looks like. And then we stepped it up a little bit, talked about building your own custom GPTs last week. Now we're on automation. And so, yes, at every level, it's getting a little bit more technical, but make sure you just stay along for the ride. And if you're trying to actually learn how to do this yourself, that is one of the things that I am currently mentoring other nurses and entrepreneurs to be able to do, because trust me, taking automation, AI in general, bringing that into the field of healthcare, there ain't nothing more profitable for nurses to get into right now. Okay. So let's get into it. So I was previously just in the screen that allows me to review my previous executions, but now we're going to actually look at the modules themselves. Before I get into that, when I say modules, let me just show you all here. So as you can see, as I'm scrolling through, look at all these apps and all these services. Like, look at this. I think it's 7,000, 5,000 or 7,000 services that you can link together. It's truly insane. For example, some of the things that you can link together: Gmail, of course, Google Drive, OneDrive, even Teams, Make, Monday.com. What else do we got? Supabase for people who know about developing stuff, Google Sheets, Slack, and I'll actually show you one of my Slack automations in a moment. It's just so cool. There's virtually no limit to what you can link together, because worst case scenario, you can just build your own custom link, and that's a little bit more advanced, not the purpose of today's call, but I just want to let y'all know. I ain't fronting when I say that you don't need to know how to code to do this stuff. So let's go back to the beginning here. What is a webhook? So I want you to think of a webhook as a trigger that exists to go off under certain circumstances. Now, Zoom is nice because it has built-in webhooks that will trigger when certain things happen. And we can tell that this is a trigger module because it has this lightning one, which means as soon as something happens, as soon as data hits that webhook, it's going to go off. So Zoom is nice because they are very willing to work with make.com to make things super easy. So all I did is I went and I added my Zoom credentials when I logged in for the first time. And then I was able to go in and actually choose what event I wanted. So the event I wanted was when a recording was complete. Or sorry, I should say, no, let me double check that. Was a recording complete? Let me see. Let me take a step back, make sure I ain't lying. Make sure I ain't lying to y'all. Yeah, I think it was that one. So basically, when a recording is done and it's been uploaded, that's when this is going to trigger. And then it's going to pass through and go through the rest of this process that we looked at earlier. As I said, the iterator is just taking the entire payload or all the data that came along when this webhook was triggered, when that condition was met that allowed this whole process to start. It's going to take that whole thing and just going to break it down into its individual elements. So when I talk about mapping, this is what I mean here. So when I click into the download a Zoom recording module, because Zoom has several different modules. Yeah, let's break it down over here. So Zoom has several different modules. One of those modules is the Watch Meetings module. And so what this means is that when data comes in or when this condition is met, it will instantly trigger. ACID is an acronym that I can't remember what it stands for, but basically it means that it is going to put a lot of effort to ensuring that the integrity of the data stays the same. You don't need to know what all that means, but the most important piece is that this is instant. So that means that as soon as this meeting is done, then it would go off. We also have watch webinars. We also have watch recordings, which is the one that this one is built off of. When a recording is done processing, this is when this is going to trigger. Because as you'll know, it does take time for me to be able to, or for it to be able to process in the back. And as soon as that recording is processed, then that's when this is going to start off. And then we also have watch phone calls. We also have watch channels. But anyways, for the purposes of our demo today, we're just focusing on recordings. So that goes off and then triggers the rest of this here. But now when we look in here, part of what came out of this was the recording link or the download link. So when the iterator broke it down, it brought out the meeting ID, which we're all familiar with, the time that the recording started, the time it ended, the type of file, the size, the URL to play it. So if you've ever watched like a replay of a Zoom link, or a Zoom recording, that's how you do that. Then the download link, which is what we wanted. So when you use the download a cloud recording module, which is this guy here. So download a cloud recording, which is what we need. It is going to ask you, what is the URL? And obviously we can see that this is a mandatory field. What is the URL? So we can download the URL right there and just click and drag, like literally. So when this was being set up, it's like, okay, what came from the previous module? Click and drag there. That is what it looks like to build automations using make.com. You don't have to write code, obviously, for this. This looks a bit more complicated. We'll get to that in a second. But when we look at the download token is just right here. It's pulling not from the previous module, which was the iterator, but from the initial one. So we just go here, click, and drag. So y'all remember when we used to do those like things in school where they'd be like, you have two columns, right? Where it's like match the things that go together. So it would be maybe, let's say it was, what am I even thinking? Objects that are going to be found in a car, right? That's the idea. And then you have all these like different words that you would like go across like the different columns to like match up. That's basically the same thing here, which makes it super straightforward. Now, what are you looking at down here? This is a mix between the way that make.com allows you to click and drag things and then JSON code. So this is why I said that having some understanding is useful. Basically, we want to actually format the date so that it makes sense, because when you actually get the file name, it's not going to look all nice. So we want it to look nice like this, where it's the year and then the month and the day, the hour, and then the minute. And then this is how we actually get the name of it. Now, for me, when I was first learning this, I'm like, oh, I ain't got no idea how to do this. So I was using ChatGPT to do this. And it will allow you to, because you can go in and say, I want to be able to have it look like this. This is what it looks like. And I actually make use of just like taking little screenshots and then uploading that into ChatGPT to say, this is what it's asking me for. I want it to be able to give me the year, month, day, hour, and minute. How would I format this? And ChatGPT will tell you. ChatGPT knows about make.com. It's a very popular tool. And then that satisfies all the conditions there. And then we're looking over at upload our video. So when we upload our video, it needs the file name, which again, we're getting from this previous one here. And so here we would, oh, sorry, no, I lied. From the download a Zoom recording, which is right here at the top. So again, all I did was click and drag this here. And there we have our title. And then you go in and you say your category. For me, my default category is education, but you would go in and set your category. And then privacy status, unlisted. As I mentioned, these videos are not for general consumption. If I wanted to add a description, I could. I typically don't, because again, this is just for storage and for review. And then you can go and add tags, recording date, license, all these other things that, again, you would have when you actually have a YouTube channel, then you're uploading content. Same thing here, video ID, we're just clicking and dragging. And the playlist ID. Now, let me actually bring this up on another screen. The interesting thing when you look at a URL is, I didn't realize this for the longest time until I started building these automations, is that there is actually a lot of information that comes up when you are on a website and you look at the URL. Now, there are certain ways that, let me say, actually, I got an idea here. I'm going to bring up one of my playlists where I just have a bunch of stuff that I like to review. Let's go for maybe one that talks about the YouTube algorithm. So when you actually go to look at and let me pivot my screen here one moment. When you actually go to look at a playlist, what you're actually going to see is that you have the ability to go in and actually get some information. The interesting thing about the way that this URL is formatted is that this is the information that you're looking for. So here we can see that this is the list. So it's saying the playlist equals, and this is the playlist right here. So if I wanted to automatically have this upload to this playlist, I would just copy this and then put it right here in the playlist ID. Now, obviously, you got to know that that's where that information is going to live. But start paying attention to your URLs. You will often find that you'll have a question mark somewhere in there. And that question mark means that after that, this is information that tells us where, when we go to this website, how it's going to navigate to get to our destination. So I just paste that in there. And then the way that this module here works, when you set it up, it actually gets you to use like a QR code. So you can't just set this up for a phone that you don't actually have access to, which obviously is a safety feature. But I went and I just took file name, which the file name came from all the way over here. And then I added this space, which I'll get to in a second, now on YouTube. So when you're using make.com to code, or to build, I should say, no code apps, there's a few things that sometimes you are going to actually have to use these these, I guess, functions. Yeah, these functions that have some ability to shift the way that that module behaves. Now, when it comes to JSON, just using the space bar, it actually doesn't do anything. So if I were to just not have this space here, it would be the file name, and then it would immediately, with no spaces, just go to the end, which is not what I want. So I went and I added the space keyword, so that gives it a proper space. I really don't know what a lot of these things do. I haven't used them. Split I have used. If you want everything to be capitalized, like, or sorry, if you want like the first letter to be capitalized, then you do that, and you can see what it shows you here. And it just gives you the ability to just format the text. So it's nice that it has that functionality so that you can just make sure that things are the way that you want them to be. And then when we're looking at the default, do we want it to just send a notification or open a browser? And then how soon do you want it to deliver? For me, in this case, I want to know right away. So that is the general walkthrough of how this particular automation works. This one is a little bit more advanced, I would say. But as I get ready to just pull up this next one, I want to say this. More than anything else, I love it when I see nurses getting involved in learning how to be able to do this type of stuff. And the reason why is that more than anything else, as I keep saying, this opportunity is something that is not going to come around again, in my perspective, in our lifetime. It is very, very rare where we start to see a complete upheaval around how certain things are done. And the reason that that is encouraging is that if you are a nurse who has a desire to be able to step away from the bedside, to be able to do cool stuff that will allow you to just achieve new goals in a way that you never have before, then it's going to be exciting. Because for me, I love that type of stuff. And the reason I love that type of stuff is because I'm trying to do cool stuff more than anything else. So I'm going to show you another more simple automation. And this is an automation that I use to actually manage tasks in my business. So there was a lot of different task management stuff, or I guess apps that I've used in the past, but I just found that this one trumps most of them because of its simplicity. Now I use a platform called Go High Level to organize the work that I do. And in my business, it's just a very, very useful platform for being able to track what's going on and how you're doing things. And so and what this is basically telling me here is that when I have information that comes in, and you all remember that we talked about webhooks earlier, when I have information that comes in from my platform, it hits this webhook, which is then going to activate. Now, this is going to activate when I assign a task, or when one of my colleagues, one of my employees sends me or assigns me a task. Now, the reason that I like something like this is because, again, I'm all about the push notifications. If I'm getting all of these notifications within the apps, I ain't going to be paying as much attention to that. But more than anything else, when I get this particular push notification from make.com, that's how I know that I need to pay attention to something specific and it's time sensitive. So basically, when a task is assigned to me by one of my employees, it then will send it over here to this webhook, which it'll give me the information. So here, for example, actually, let me see here. Let me go to the executions. So the last time that this was ran was on the 17th. And then it gives you the ability to go in and see that information that came through. Then it gives me who it is that this task was that it was assigned to. And then it gives me the ability then to say, hey, you need to pay attention to this new task that's been assigned to you. So nice and simple. But I will tell you that this has increased my productivity significantly. And the reason it has increased my productivity significantly is because anytime that I see that notification come in, I know that there's something I need to pay attention to. So again, for me, this is something that has had tremendous impact in my business. And automations is something that a lot of people these days are selling. You've probably seen it in ads or you've seen it in videos, and with good reason. Because if somebody has never thought about how they could automate specific processes in their business, then this truly could be transformational in terms of what it is that you're capable of doing. So, if someone wants to start learning automations, what would I recommend? I recommend that you follow a few specific creators. And I'm actually going to pull this up here. TikTok is still one of the best platforms to be able to learn just in general. Obviously, you've got YouTube, which is another great resource. I ended up just learning a lot of this just by learning how to navigate and find the right people that were actually teaching this type of stuff. Now, let me give y'all a few good examples of people that you might want to consider following. I'm just going to pull up my little playlist here. Yeah, I'm a playlist person, as y'all can tell. So, when it comes to make.com, I find that there's a couple people who teach it really well to beginners because obviously you can get super technical as you've seen. Like, yeah, you can go in real deep. There's this one guy called Cloudcraft Software on TikTok. He's got a few make.com 101 videos, which I think are just phenomenal for beginners. And then another person who I also recommend for beginners would be, oh yeah, Meletech.ai. So she's also on TikTok, Meletech.ai. Yeah. But as with anything else in life, like think back to the time when you actually first started learning how to do specific nursing skills. In order to actually learn how to do the skills, you had to do them. Simple. No amount of reading, researching, watching the videos, no amount of that is going to actually make a difference in terms of you being able to learn it. You gotta just do the skills. You just gotta do the skills. That's all there is to it. And so I would highly recommend that you take that time to develop those skills and go bit by bit. Just figure out how it is that you can practice it because it is not nearly as complicated as you think that it will be. Obviously, when you start anything new, yes, it's going to be intimidating because it's new. But more than anything else, what has been the most fun for me as I've started to kind of just learn what it is that you can do is the fact that you can actually implement systems that are going to make a tremendous difference for you. Now, I did say that I was going to hold off on talking about N8N until next week, but nah, it's yeah, y'all know me. I like this stuff too much. So what I am going to do is I'm just going to show you kind of once you've got make.com kind of down what the next frontier, what the next frontier is. So the reason that I like N8N is that it just gives you options. And options is always one of my favorite things to have. What I'm going to show you, what I'm about to show you, don't get all intimidated. Don't get all intimidated. But what I will say is that if you do have a desire to be able to learn how to do this stuff, I would recommend that you pull up to this masterclass that I'm going to be doing on April 10th. And I'm calling it my Clinician Builder Masterclass. This masterclass is designed for people who have a desire to be able to develop new skills, to be able to grow what it is that they're capable of doing so that they don't have to continue using their knowledge from nursing, their skills as a nurse in the same old way. Again, we need to have nurses working on the front line. There's no doubt about that. But for me, I just knew that I had a whole other skill set that I was underutilizing. And not only was I wanting to be able to use those skills to be able to create an impact, but more than anything else, I was just interested in seeing how far I could push what it was that I was capable of doing. Now, when it comes to using a system like N8N, the reason that something like this is so dope is because it gives you just a lot more flexibility with how you go about doing things. Don't get me wrong, make.com is still phenomenal and it is, in my opinion, still the best automation platform for beginners. That being said, when you see something like what I'm about to show y'all right here, you're like, oh, there's a whole other world out there. It's like that song, A Whole New World from Aladdin. That's how I felt the first time that I saw this. All right, let's see if this is going to work. Let's see here if it's going to cooperate with me. All right, I might have to switch this over one moment. So, more than anything else, in the world of automation, the reason why everybody is talking more so now about agents versus just plain automations is because agents have the ability to act independently. And that is one of the more appealing things that when I first started learning about this, I was like, okay, the ability to have these things act on your behalf without any intervention is where the real flex is at, in my opinion. Now, I don't know who else has heard of these of these automations that, or I guess these agents that will actually go and like use your browser for you. Like they actually will go around and click things on your screen. I personally haven't dived into that yet, but this is how I know that eventually we are going to get to a point where a lot of these jobs that we currently have, they ain't going to exist because AI can already do so much. And yeah, there will be certain things that we're never going to automate. And where I always like to think about is healthcare, right? People are like, oh, yeah, AI is coming to take our jobs. As nurses, I get that there are definitely going to be organizations, leaders that try to replace nurses with some sort of automated system, robotic system. In my opinion, the reason that that's never going to work is that there is both an art and a science to nursing. And the art of nursing is not something that any AI system will ever be able to replicate. Just like, sure, it's just not possible. It's just not possible. But nurses who have the ability to use AI are going to replace those who do not. All right, let me hop off my soapbox. So this is N8N. And so what I've been saying, you're like, what is that N8N? The letter N, the number 8, the letter N. So what are you looking at here? What you're looking at is an agent that has the ability, when I ask it to tell me what is on my calendar for that day. And then it is going to send a Slack message to that spot because I wanted to actually be able to have this work through Slack. And so in the version that I had originally built, it started off with a Slack message and then ended off with a Slack message. But the beauty of building something like this is you have so much flexibility for how it is actually going to work. So the idea is that it receives a chat message, which I can type in here and I'll show you. And then it goes through and it uses this agent here to process the information. And it will leverage a chat model. It needs to have a little bit of memory to say, okay, I need to actually remember what the previous prompts were so I can use that if there's like a chain of prompts that come through. Then I give it access to my Google Calendar. So the way I use this is to be able to go in and say, okay, what is on my calendar for this particular day? And then it's going to take that information, process it through ChatGPT into a nice little response that works well for me, that then is going to be posted into the Slack channel. So I actually haven't used this in a while. Let's see if it's actually still set up properly. So we can ask it, what meetings do I have tomorrow? Yeah, I knew it. Yeah, I didn't actually set this up properly, dude, because I didn't plan to do it. Yeah. Well, there we go. Y'all will just have to hold off till next week. But essentially, the thing that I like about this is that not only does it give you the ability to not just build automations like you would in Make, because all the things that I showed you guys that I've built out in Make, I can make pretty much all of it here in N8N. But the beauty again of agents is the fact that they can perform actions independently. One of the crowning achievements of my organization in the past year is developing our Magnus the Eloquent system. What is Magnus the Eloquent? Well, Magnus the Eloquent is an automated AI system that allows you to be able to produce content, specifically written content. And the way that it works is you have the ability to train it over a period of time to produce content that is in your voice. And it's very skilled at producing high quality copy that is in alignment with the brand's specific voice, specific identity, and can be used for a variety of things. It can be used to generate emails. It can be used to be able to go and respond to emails. It can be used to generate LinkedIn posts, to generate descriptions for Instagram or TikTok videos. It just gives you a lot of different options for how you can get that independent action going. Because again, there's only so much one person can do. There's only so much one person can do at any time. So, more than anything else, I love the idea that I can leverage this type of technology to streamline the processes that I have going on in my business. And that would be something that, if you are curious to learn more about, there are so many ways you can go about doing that. You can learn just by watching YouTube videos. You can learn by just watching other people actually build things. You can learn by watching TikTok or by doing more than anything else doing. Do I think that you need to buy a course? No. But for me, anytime I'm trying to learn a new skill, I'm always trying to find a mentor who's just going to walk me through that. Yes, you certainly can go about learning it on your own. I certainly did. But it is always going to be faster and more effective and more efficient to be able to actually learn how to do it by having somebody teach you. The reason I like mentorship so much is that every time that I have actually sought out a mentor, it has allowed me to get a quantum leap in my business. And people say time is money. That is incorrect. Time is infinitely more valuable than money. And so for me, I'd rather not spend all of the time in the world trying to figure it out myself. Although, yes, that's going to be very rewarding. I have other things I have to do. So that is why for me, it's been a game changer. And for anybody who is wanting to learn a little bit more about how you can actually leverage these tools specifically within the field of healthcare, hit me up. I love teaching this stuff. And it's something that is only going to become more and more ingrained into what we do as healthcare providers, as nurses. And I would strongly encourage you, if you are somebody who does want to be able to figure out how to do this, to just start practicing. A lot of these AI tools and organizations and companies, they will let you get started for free. You don't have to go in and actually enter your credit details or any of that because they will give you a certain amount of usage for free. But inevitably, what you find is that once you start leveraging, like, oh, I didn't know I was able to do all of these things here. And so that's why I would just encourage you strongly. If it is something that interests you, just start. For the last few minutes, I want to talk a little bit about some of the projects that I've been working on where I've actually integrated these things. And one such example is an EMR system that I am building. So some of you would have actually seen that I have posted like a couple screenshots of the EMR system that I'm building, but I actually ended up building out a very specific element of what I've been doing in my development of one of my systems. And I've actually added functionality in there that allowed me to be able to just do some incredibly cool things. But instead of just talking about it, why don't I show you? So using make.com, I was actually able to link in a specific process that I've built into an app that I am in the process of building. So what you're going to see in a moment here is this is my winter scheduling system. It's something that I'm in the midst of developing. And this is the type of stuff that we're going to be talking about during our Clinician Builder Masterclass. But what I did here is I actually integrated an AI voice agent that I built, integrated it with this app that I'm building using a make.com automation. So what happens is this. Somebody will actually call in to the AI voice agent. And the situation that this would be leveraged in would be like a physician's office. So let me walk y'all through the workflow. Somebody calls in. Hey, want to come in and see Dr. So-and-so for an appointment. And I want to come in this day, this time. It actually, like, the AI voice agent will walk you through it. And it sounds incredibly human. We ain't trying to mimic humans because at the end of the day, again, AI is a tool. It's not here to replace, it's here to enhance. And so it gives you the ability to then, I mean, just think about this from like a physician's office perspective. If you're not having to always vet these calls, right? The vast majority of the stuff that these front desk people will be doing is answering calls. And the vast majority of these calls are going to be, I want to book an appointment. Of course, then you have, I want to cancel, I want to reschedule, but most times it's going to be, hey, I want to book an appointment. So if you have the ability to build a system that can actually take the load off of the front desk staff, to be able to very strategically only pass certain types of calls over to a human reviewer or to a front desk person, that would be dope. So what we did is we built this AI voice agent and then hooked it up to this using a webhook. And again, remember, a webhook is a connection between 2 points in the internet. So when the call drops, when that person gets off the phone, whether they were able to be helped, whether they were able to book the call, whether they got frustrated, and whether they just want to talk to a human. Once that is completed, it's going to send that information through the internet to a webhook, which was my make.com automation. And then what it will actually do is it will then set off a series of things where it will transform that information and then get it into my system here. Again, via webhook. The information comes in, it travels through the system, and it gets sent and then appears somewhere else. And this is why I teach things in the order that I do. For anyone who hasn't heard me talk about this, there are kind of 4 levels to developing AI competence. Starting off just unconsciously incompetent, right? You have no idea what you know, what you don't know. But then you learn prompt engineering. You learn that when you are talking to AI, you want to give it an identity. You are an expert copywriter. You want to give it a role or a job. I have hired you to go through all of my emails before I send them. Check for spelling, syntax, grammar, whatever. Then you have the ability to go in and actually start building custom GPTs, which are, it's a chat GPT thing primarily, where you have a set of, I guess, instructions and a knowledge base that you've already incorporated. So that every time that you want to start a new chat, or next time that somebody has the ability to go in and just leverage that to their advantage, you don't actually have to go in and just type it every time. It already has been pre-configured with those instructions. So I love that type of stuff. But anyways, more than anything else, if you are somebody who has the desire to figure out what this type of stuff is all about, I would say join that masterclass that I'm going to be doing. The best way to be able to get access to that is to hop onto my page, enlightenedinformatics.com, and then you can actually register for the masterclass there. Masterclass is happening 2 weeks from today. 2 weeks from today, 5 p.m. Mountain Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And that will give you the ability from beginning to end to understand everything you need to know to build your first app. We will also be focusing on automations, obviously. As I said, they all go hand in hand. But what we need to make sure we do more than anything else is to start preparing ourselves for the ability to combine our nursing knowledge, our nursing clinical judgment, as well as the ability to create solutions that actually make a real difference for real people, because that's the most important piece. If what you're doing does not help, it's not worth nothing. Looking forward to seeing you guys on the masterclass on April 10th. Same time, same place next week for our last touch base before that masterclass, where we'll be diving deep into AI agents. Take care, stay blessed, and we'll see y'all on the next one. Oh, actually, you know what? Right before I was going to end this stream, Emily. Oh, just as I was looking up, Emily, I'm in grade 10, want to go into nursing. What do you recommend? What do I recommend? I recommend that you talk to nurses. Mentorship is always going to be the key. Always. As I said earlier, take that time to figure out exactly what it is that you're interested about the field of nursing for. And if you have a very specific thing that you're wanting to be able to learn, wanting to be able to experience, what's drawing you to that? That would be my question. And then figure out what nurses did to get to where they're at. Take that time, be diligent, and then just make sure that what it is that they're saying is in alignment with what you are wanting. For me, I would definitely still recommend that people go into nursing. You have a lot of people who are like, oh yeah, no, don't do nursing now. No, I would not agree with that. More than anything else, nursing just gives you lots of options. As you can see, I'm building apps, I'm building automations, I'm leveraging AI, but my background is nursing. And I'm going to be doing a lot more of this in the work that I'm doing now. So that'll be my recommendation. And then just be as versatile as possible. Learn technical skills. Very few nurses have technical skills. And so when you take that, combine that with your nursing knowledge, you're unstoppable. Great. All right. Now we go off for good, for sure. Welcome to everybody who came through to the stream for the first time. It's going to be a nice little ride here in that lead up to the masterclass that we're doing on April 10th. So take care, stay blessed for real, and we'll see y'all next week.